Hello, everyone. Judy, if you can hear me, you want to click the connect using computer audio. I'll be back in a moment.
There we go. Okay. I think I'm here.
Hello, it's Robert.
Is anybody on?
Yes.
Brilliant. Hello, everyone. A few minutes until we start. I'm going to work on getting the Facebook live stream up and going.
Hey, Rob,
Yeah,
can you hear me all right?
I sure can.
Okay,
Ben,
great.
which screen am I sharing right now?
Facebook,
I am?
that's what I see.
Oh, I want to stop that before I enter my password. Let's
Now
see,
we
guys.
I was kind of waiting for that. No?
Well, it does hide the password, but you know, just kind of. All right. Okay. Now I Zoom. Okay, more live on Facebook. This has always been the problem, is getting us to go live properly on
You
Facebook.
turn the light on. Thank you.
I think it may actually work the first time this time. That would be a treat. Oh.
Mayor, I'm here.
Hello, Chief. How are you?
Good.
We're still waiting to get started.
Okay.
Hypothetically, I think the Facebook live stream just started. We'll see in a minute. There it is.
And I think if I mute myself, it's *6, right? In case there's conversation going on. I think that's what they say to do.
I think so. Well, give it a try. I'll tell you if it works. We don't hear you if you're talking.
How about now?
Now we hear you.
Oh, I'm getting the hang of this modern technology.
Look at you with the technology. Look at you. Thanks, Chief. Okay, yeah, we are up and running on the live stream, so that's good. Let me switch back to the screen share. Okay. Looks like we have all of our trustees here. Emily, where's Emily? Emily, are you here?
Yes,
All right, we have Andy here. So I am going to go to this. Do you guys now see the meeting slide?
Yep. Yes.
All right, at this point, it's 6:02. I am going to call this meeting to order. Please take a moment to mute your microphone, and you can turn off your video as well. We are going to stand. If you have a flag, certainly stand towards it, but I'm going to stand now. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please take a moment to think about those who have gone before us. Thank you very much.
Happy birthday, Greg Pine.
Happy birthday, Craig Pine. Thank you, Kevin.
Why, thank you.
39, right, Craig?
And counting.
There we go. Okay, roll call, please, Marie.
Okay, Mayor Allen,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Ryan,
Here.
Trustee Lewis,
Here.
Trustee Murphy,
Here.
Trustee O'Malley,
Here.
Trustee Patton,
Here.
and happy birthday, Trustee Pine.
And I'm here.
Attorney Gilchrist is also present.
Attorney Gilchrist is here. Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Andy. And I think also we have Denise, treasurer, and Judy, our deputy clerk. Okay, just a quick review of our online etiquette, which has been working brilliantly in previous meetings. When you are not speaking, please mute your audio. Some PCs have a setting where you can hit spacebar and it will unmute it so you can talk. Please, it's easier if you use headphones, whichever kind, whether it's this kind or the earbuds or anything like that. Ideally, it helps prevent the feedback loop where it's coming back through your speakers and into your microphone. And if two or more of you are watching the meeting in the same room, first off, hats off to you guys. You're great people. But please make sure to only use one person's audio so there's no feedback loop. And I did have an error in the agenda. I had people to be heard here. It will happen later after the mayor update, so that's coming soon. All right, I have a lot of announcements and updates, quite a bit more than what I had on the agenda, but I'm going to review them here. Village elections remain postponed until after September 15th. I have a village court update that I just got from our court clerk, Holly Cross. They are still at a point where they are in a hold pattern for court appearances. They have been instructed by the Unified Court System, 3rd Judicial District, that they are to push all proceedings out until August at this time. So at this point, the village court is waiting for further instruction by the court administration. Once Holly, our court clerk, has received new instructions, we will keep everyone informed, and I'll post this up on the Facebook page. And as she reiterates, and as we all know, everything is changing quite quickly. So if you were thinking you were going to have a June or July court appearance, you are not right now. We're waiting until they get more specific feedback. So please spread the word on that. And when in doubt, Holly said, call the court and ask for some more information. Okay, updates. First off, we have gotten some work done on the boat launch that is going to be entering the southern end of the Greenway. Now, this is a project that was funded through a grant, quite an old grant actually, and has been a joint project between the village, the Greenway Committee, and the engineering firm Barton and LaJudas. We have some pictures I want to show you. These come from Neil Stoll, our DPW superintendent. Shows some of the work that's been done in that area to get things ready, heading down to the river. And this is something that we'll be continuing to work on over the next month or so. Neil, I can't remember what our specific completion time is on this, but I just want people to be aware that it is coming. And if you see the work down at the center of the Greenway, that's why. So thank you, Neil, for these pictures and for the work you guys are doing. I think you're meeting with B&L sometime this week or next week, I think, to continue on with things. Next thing, we have a highway garage just about completed. These are some pictures from Neil on the outside. This is the one side where there's the 3 bays and the other side where there's the single bay. Drive through, as you can see. Hallway inside on the left. I think that is Neil's office on the right. Some pictures from inside restroom. They'll have locker rooms. This is the inside of the huge bay, and there's actually some space up top there. And this is the meeting, training room, break room over down there in the corner as well. So that's looking good. There is some work remaining, but it's for the most part stuff that the village is going to be doing. They're going to be moving the diesel tank and the gas tank from the old location to the new location. They're going to be putting some flooring in the office hallway and break room. Next year, they'll be putting a final blacktop coating. In terms of what actually falls under the grant, and Bishop Beaudry, who's done some really nice work, they just have some small fixes there. Neil, anything you want to add into that? I'll take that as a strong no. Okay, more things near completion. The sewer project is getting near completion, very close. Here are some pictures of the Lyman Street new pump station. And this went online several months ago, I think. Recently, the River Road pump station, a much smaller version of the original River Road pump station, if any of you remember what that looked like, is now online as well. This went online middle of last week, so about a week ago. At this point, when I was speaking with Rich from MRB, all of the old lines have been terminated. The equipment, old equipment has all been removed and taken care of. There is a lot of site restoration that's going to be completed this week, both by Louisi Brothers, who is doing the site restoration on the Greenway Trail, and by J Squared, who's doing some site restoration on the two pump stations. Not just groundwork for J Squared, but they're also going to try, I think they have the fencing and the blacktopping in by Friday. So with the exception of some punch list items for the J Squared side of things, this project is pretty much at its end, which is a really exciting thing, especially because this project started before I even became mayor. And trustees, I know that we had discussed site restoration concerns, so hopefully by this Friday, it should be completed. Kevin, I don't know if you're free on Friday, but I know that Neil was going to be meeting with someone from MRB. It would be great if we could have somebody from the Greenway Committee down there to look over things. I know, Kevin, that you've done a lot with this, and I think some others have helped with that.
Actually, I couldn't make it when they had a meeting a couple weeks ago. Dave Sutton came on behalf of the Hoosick River Greenway, and he pointed out some of the issues, and I believe they came up with some answers to some of the concerns that people had.
Okay. All right, that's great. Thank you. Do you think you're free Friday, or do you think Dave or we could get someone down there Friday just to check things out once we have a definite time?
I can ask Dave.
Okay, great. Thank you. Trying to think if I had anything else in my notes. Yeah, at this point, all of the old lines that were set to be replaced are terminated and gone. So that's a very, very great prospect, and everything is working the way it should be. The phone system thing continues to be a source of frustration. I've probably spent about 6 hours just this week on the phone with various companies trying to get a straight answer. One company says you need to resend the thing. The other company says, oh, we never got the thing. So I'm going to be calling them pretty much every day this week until this is done. And it's at the point now where it's causing issues. We should have been switched over already in the municipal building, as well as down at the new highway garage. So after this meeting today, my goals this week are to call them every day, even if we need to get both entities on the phone at the same time to get this resolved as soon as possible. So hopefully within this week, we'll get everything squared away, and then they'll have a time to switch over. Again, the phone infrastructure here is already set here in the office. It has been set for a while. We're just waiting for them to do the switch over, and once that's in process, then I'll be going over with the employees here things we need to know about our phone and setting up various passwords and such. The water quality report is on the village website. It's the annual report that comes out. There were no issues reported, which is good news. There have been 3 cases recently diagnosed of COVID-19 here within Hoosick Falls. There's not a lot I'm going to say. Obviously, first in the forefront is HIPAA rules and regulations and the concerns for these people. I know on Facebook, on the county's Facebook page, they've been giving updates, and I think they've specified at least 2 of them being 19-year-old. I can't remember what they said on the third. I think it was about the same age. The good news, statistically speaking, is at this young age, there shouldn't be huge health concerns. But the fact remains is that this is, from Hoosick Falls, we've been kind of watching this transpire with very, very few cases here. And now we have a few kind of quickly around the same time. this is the time to really make sure that we are wearing masks, adhering to all the social distance rules and regulations. In a rural town like this, where we all know each other and we have so many connections, this is the time where I'm, in a sense, the most frightened that it's going to spread further. So please, as things are reopening, as summer is arriving, please remember, adhere to social distancing, wear masks. And I think the other thing that I want to stress, and the county wanted to stress as well, is think really strongly about the people who you are in contact with, the people in your circle, and the people who you come in contact who may be high risk. I don't know why high risk didn't show up there. But that really is the concern. Elderly population, cancer survivors, people who have weaker immune systems. If those individuals are within your circle, you should be very, very careful and cautious about wearing masks and not being too close to people. So I know it's graduation season, I know it's summer, but I really can't stress enough. The next couple weeks, I'm going to be keeping an eye, and I'm going to be hoping and praying that this doesn't spread any further through our community, but it is a concern. Finally, I just wanted to comment briefly on the protests that have been going on across the country in Black Lives Matter, the movement. I don't really have a lot of specific comments I want to make. Obviously, I was appalled and shocked at the way that the George Floyd situation was handled and his passing. It was an injustice, and I feel awful for his family. I'm glad to see that there is a larger discussion going on about racial inequality and even justice. I think it's necessary. I wish at the highest level there was a lot more empathy and a lot more listening to each side. I think the Black Lives Matter movement is right on with a lot of things. It's a very, very important. I've had conversations with my children about this, and as a white male, I can't really explain to them. I have not experienced what a lot of my African American friends have experienced, and I wanted to communicate that to my children. And I hope that in a smaller scale here within our families and within our communities, we're having good discussions about this, because right now, the overall culture, especially at the highest levels of federal government, does not have empathy and listening and working to understand. It just has a lot of things being shouted back and forth. And I think that if we want to make a difference, we start here within our families, within our communities. So I urge you to have those discussions with your families. We've spoken, the chief and I have spoken a great deal about this, and I was so glad to see the turnout in Troy. There was a protest in Cambridge. I was so very glad to see that they were peaceful, they were handled well, and I have a great deal of empathy for African Americans and anyone who's experienced racial injustice. At the same time, I also have a lot of empathy for police officers who are being put in a situation where they have to police their community, their friends around them, and that's a hard situation too. So I just encourage families to have these good discussions about it. I think it starts small in our families and our communities, and it starts with education to really explain and move forward so that something positive and changing to the system can come out of this. Chief, if you want to hop in and say a few things, or if any trustees want to speak about that, you can certainly feel free. I'll open up the floor to you guys right now, Chief or trustees.
Rob, I think what you said a lot, and you and I have spoken about it. I agree with what you're saying. During this past situation down in Troy, we were asked to assist with them. We had one officer that is an EMT that was assigned to the unit down there. We kept in touch with them down there, and everything went not only by the police, but the individuals that were protesting. I commend both of them. They did an outstanding job, and it went exactly how we had all hoped that it would have went. So I'm really proud of not just the police, but also the individuals that exercised the right to protest. was outstanding.
Trustees, did anyone else want to say anything? Totally don't have to. It's fine. I just want to offer that in case you wanted to.
I think we as a village, if we put out information regarding any rallies or things like that, that we should make sure that we not be inflammatory or try to be careful in our wording. I know we had a Facebook post last week by the police that people took exception to, that it was a threat that Hoosick Falls was in, and it set off a firestorm on Facebook. So I think we have to be careful in our wording.
Kevin, I think you're right, and I think the rumor mill, not just around that situation, but even around COVID-19, we just have to be really careful. I know that the chief fielded a lot of calls about concerns about things they were hearing, and I know that the chief had a lot of conversations with EMS crews and plans with the sheriff's office on various things that could happen. There was never any situation that was coming up here, and I know that we just wanted to get that message out because a lot of people were concerned. But again, if you have those concerns, reach out, give us a call, and we'll address them.
Yeah, I think people have to be careful with what they're seeing and learning on Facebook these days.
Yeah, and how they say things on Facebook, but yeah.
And just to reiterate, we're having our firearms training later on in the month, and during that time of training, we're going to be going over use of force as we're part of our program, as well as tactics and how we use and arrest procedures and stuff. So the officers are going to be rebriefed as we do yearly again with it. So
Great. Thank you, Chief. I'm going to go back to sharing the screen of the meeting, and let's continue on. So we have a presentation by Robert Flores of Delaware Engineering. This is in relation to the $1 million WIA grant that we received to put some extra UV filtration equipment in the wastewater treatment plant. This is specific to a state requirement that requires us to have this by, I want to say, is it sometime in 2022? I can't remember if it's spring or fall. Robert, are you on?
Yep, I'm on the phone.
Thank you, Robert, for joining us. I have all your bullets that you sent me. So do you want them all to come up, or you just want me to hit them as you go?
Probably, I'm okay with you. Don't put them all up at once.
Okay. So please take it away, and I can also share the overall budget as well.
Okay, so just a little history. Like Rob was saying, your current wastewater treatment plant does not disinfect before it goes to the stream. DEC has given you a letter that says you must start disinfecting. It's going to be seasonal disinfection, so it's going to be by May 1st, 2022. You have to be fully functioning and meeting your permit. So you had that letter that said that was going to happen. Last year in the CFA rounds, we applied on the village's behalf for a grant. The village was awarded a $1 million grant, and the budget, as you can see in the first bullet, the overall project budget is $1.5 million. The maximum grant amount was $1 million, which is what the village received. The grant proceeds have to be used for construction costs. So the village still has to pay for the portions that are not directly part of construction, such as, we did seeker for environmental review, there's design. So those parts the $1 million can't be used for that money. So we need, the bullets basically lay out the steps that'll get you to a fully operational disinfection system by 2022. And so one of the obvious questions was the village still has to finance, pre-finance the grant and finance that $500,000, potential $500,000 cost. So we need to follow through with clean water SRF financing. That will lead to potential of a 0% loan to cover the difference. It also allows you to have what they call short-term financing, which is basically a construction loan that will give you operating cash for during construction and moving the project along. And in the next bullet there, WIA grant. So you got a WQIP grant. So there's a WIA grant that you would be eligible for. The WIA grant pays for 25% of costs that haven't already been paid by another grant. So there's a potential out there for some more, $120,000 for the grant money. And since there's a potential, you might as well apply for it. So on the normal calendar years, those applications are due in September. If the state has a round this year, we'll apply for it. And we'll assume the state will have a round for it next year, and we'll apply for it then. Like I said, the village has nothing to lose because you have to do everything that's required for the grant anyway. So you should apply. So in the meantime, you have costs, and so this is where it brings us to potential. Well, you need to at some point do a bond resolution, and that bond resolution will allow you to take out a ban to cover some upfront costs until clean water SRF money is available. And these are all the typical projects you've used and programs you've used in all your other construction capital projects. So I think a lot of the people are, at least on the board side, are familiar with it. Well, let me take a pause there. Does anybody have questions?
So trustees, Denise, Andy, fire away.
What exactly does disinfecting do to the water being treated?
So after you treat the wastewater on the way out, it still has high levels of bacteria, fecal, E. coli, that type of bacteria. And right now it's just been discharged to the stream. And the philosophy was that as long as nobody swims in the river, the fish and ducks can handle the high levels of bacteria. That's no longer accepted practice. So you have to disinfect so that the E. coli and fecal going into the stream has to be reduced to below 200 milligrams per liter, which is what you would expect to find in any river that wasn't contaminated.
And the UV lighting is what attacks the bacteria. Is the
Right. So there's two very common ways of doing that. One is using UV disinfection, and the other one is using chlorine. And so there was an engineering report that evaluated both options and different methods of using UV. And so we're proceeding with the recommended option, which is the UV disinfection.
Hi, Robert. It's Denise.
Hey, Denise.
Hi. So I'm assuming that the 25% that we're eligible for under the WIIA grant is only 25% of the 500,000 that might be our potential share. I know you mentioned
That's right.
5,000. Are there any other grants out there besides the WIA that you know of?
There's a potential for CDBG. That's the other, that's another potential. And like I said, if the grant's available, we will apply for it.
Have these programs been extended or put off, do you know, because of the situation with the Corona?
Well, the current, because of the big budget deficit, that's expected in the state, it is very likely that we're going to lose the 2020 grant season. For example, normally CFAs, which is the type of the grant funding that gave you your $1 million grant. Normally those applications would be open right now. They would have opened in the beginning of May, and they would be due at the end of July, and that process has not started. And no one at the state can tell you whether it's going to start.
Is there any way that you could give us a proposal to apply for the WIA grant?
It's part of the agreement that we have in front of you today.
So that's already included in there.
Right.
That's great.
To apply for that grant, great. Yeah.
So just a quick review on the numbers. It's a $1.5 million project. 1 million is covered from the grant, but that's only construction costs, leaving 500,000. The WIA grant allows us to go for 25% of those remaining costs, 500,000. And normally we'd have 2 rounds to go with that, 2020 and 2021, but we're not sure about this year. So that would possibly give us 125,000 or 250,000 if we got both grants. But at the end of that, that's how we're trying to figure out the $500,000 that's separate from the 1 million of construction. Did I get all that right, Denise and Robert?
Well, if we were to get the 125 twice, which is kind of up in the air now, that would only leave us with 250.
Right.
Robert, I think.
No, so you get 2 big because you can apply for the WIA grant as long as you haven't completed construction.
Okay.
So you have two rounds to apply for it, but you can only get 1 WIA grant.
It would be interesting to note if the state would modify that 2022 requirement and possibly add a year, just because I would assume a lot of construction projects have slowed down quite a bit. And I know we had planned this out a couple years ago so that everything, assuming it went smoothly, we would be online in time for 2022. Maybe something I bring up to the state.
Yeah. So you have, they incorporated the requirement in your speedies permit. That's your permit that allows you to discharge from your wastewater plant. And that's kind of the teeth to the schedule. And typically, if you're going to ask for an extension, there's got to be good reason. Obviously, there's a real good reason going on right now. But you also have a plan. You have to have a plan for completing it, and
So when can we expect? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So I was gonna say we need to have a little more information before we apply for an extension.
And how long? When is usually the $1 million released to us?
I'm sorry. So repeat the first part of the $1 million question.
When does that typically get submitted to the village? The $1 million portion of the grant.
So it's a reimbursable. So about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, you got an email from the state saying, please go to Grants Gateway, create your account for the $1 million grant. And so we got to do all that. And then when you start receiving eligible costs, which would be when the construction starts, then you could start submitting invoices and expenses for reimbursement.
So we need to bring bond counsel on board for probably the July meeting, if not the August.
Right. So even though it's it's $1.5 million project and you have $1 million grant that you know of already, you still need to do a bond resolution for $1.5 million. That's just the way village finance law works.
Right.
Denise, any other questions?
No. Nope. Sounds good so far.
Trustees, Andy?
It's Andy here. I don't have any questions. Robert explained the financing part of it accurately. So there'd be what amounts to a $1.5 million bond resolution, the content of which would acknowledge there's $1 million grant. that would also authorize taking out the ban to get going on the project, just like you've done on the highway garage and the sewer project most recently. So nope, I don't have any questions.
Trustees, I know we have in old business the motion to approve the professional services agreement with Delaware Engineering. We could jump to that now if you guys want to. I'm gonna switch
That
us
makes
back.
sense, Rob.
Okay. I'm going to switch us back to full mode so I can kind of see all of you. With that in mind, then, I'm looking for a motion to approve the professional services agreement with Delaware Engineering, DPC, for the wastewater treatment effluent disinfection project. This is $150,000, which will take us through design and bidding.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Craig. Needs a second.
Second.
Thank you,
Okay.
Vanessa, or I'll give it to Vanessa, sorry.
Doesn't matter.
All right, any discussion on this, trustees? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Abstentions? All right, it carries. Thank you very much, Robert, for being on here with us.
Sure.
Looking forward to working with you for a few years. I know you were the one who designed the current wastewater treatment plant, correct?
That's correct. Time flies. Yeah.
There you go. Is this like a welcome home thing? I don't know if you can call these homes for you, but anyway, we appreciate you. So thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay, we are now at the people to be heard section. If you would like to speak, let me just switch this back to the mode where I can see everybody. As always, say your name and address. We can just kind of wait to see. Is there anybody, how many of you guys would like to share?
I would like to share Marion Stevens.
Okay, we'll go Marion and then Spencer and then Brian, and we'll see if there's anybody else.
And Harold.
And Harold, all right. Let's go Marion first.
Okay, my yearly complaint is my zombie house next to me and the yard not being taken care of. And I did put in a nuisance form as directed to do last year, and nothing was done. Finally, my neighbor went and mowed the lawn because it was about 4 foot high.
Neil Mark has the, I know mowing has been a little bit screwy this year because of COVID. Are we at that point where we're doing that sort of thing yet?
Yes. Part of the issue with that is I actually have to wait for the grass to grow for it to become a violation. Violation doesn't happen until the grass is at least 10 inches high. So, you know, I really don't have a choice there. I have to wait for it to become a violation. And early last week, I did issue, you know, what we do every year. We appoint Ed and Jerry to do different lawns. They both have the list. Jerry's backed up a little bit. He usually does that one, and he just has not had time to get to that yet, but it's on his list. He told me he's going out to do lawns tomorrow.
Yeah, because Mark, it was definitely well over 12 inches high. And then also they have shingles and things falling now off the roof. That's also covering the side lawns and the backyard.
This is another one of those, Mark, where it's we don't really have much authority to do anything until it becomes a strong threat of collapse, right?
Yeah, you know, it recently was listed with a realtor, so I was thinking that maybe we'd see some action, but you know, there is some damage to the inside, and not just anybody can buy these houses because the extent of the work that they need. So it's unfortunate. I've been here over 5 years, and I think we've dealt with this all 5.
Marion, if it gets you know, gets to a foot or higher, just reach out and we'll pass it on, and we'll see if see where Jerry is in terms of his mowing. I know things have been really
I mean,
screwy.
like I said, it got so high that our neighbor finally did it because it was ridiculous. He said it was making the rest of our neighborhood look like crap down here, up here.
Well, thank
And
your
we're
neighbor
just-
for us, and we're keeping an eye on it now.
And and Mark should be able to see it every day. He goes by it.
I see it.
All right, thank you. Anything else, Marion?
Oh, and then the other thing was, Mark, I had also, one thing, I guess if I make these notifications, I'd like to be notified back that you received my report, because I know also we had issues in the wintertime where, again, we would clear our area, that area wouldn't be cleared, and then when there was melt, we had ice going down our sidewalk, making double the work for us. So again, it's an issue for us with it because we don't want to fall, and we're doing our part.
I'm not seeing those forms, so we'll have to take a look at it.
I sent them through email to you, like you had said to do.
Right. Well, what I started to say was that I'm not seeing the forms. I think possibly what's happening is originally when I started, the email was a .org email. And on the website, we'll have to take a look and see if it's going to the .org. I'm not seeing them.
I'll take a look at that, Marion. I know that the web page has been something that we're sort of been trying to get taken care of, and as my school year is coming to an end, that's one of my big projects is getting the website changed over. So I guess right now, Marion, if you have that, shoot me an email, shoot Mark an email, CC me on it. That way we'll know.
Okay, and then if you want to send me some hard copies of this form, I will mail down or put in your Dropbox as copies of my forms. So that way I know that you receive them.
All right. Thank you, Marion. Spencer, I think I had you next.
Hi, thank you, Mayor Allen. Yeah, my name is Spencer Dawson. What else did you need from me?
A street address.
Street address, great. 44 Hoosick Street. My parents have had this house since 1986 when I was 2. So I wanted to thank you, Mayor, and others for your words and thoughts regarding the recent murders of Black Americans and subsequent protests. At the beginning of tonight's meeting, you had asked for a moment to recognize those who have gone before us. And I would like to take this moment to recognize them by asking the village of Hoosick Falls to consider something. This is what I think to be the best difference that could be made by a rural village and an amazing way to teach children. I would like to ask Hoosick Falls to defund the police department. In light of recent murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Deion Johnson, Tony McDade, and many others at the hands of police, and the police brutality against Americans peacefully protesting those murders, and the systemic racism ever present in this country, the village of Hoosick Falls needs to take a hard look at where its money is spent, defunding the police and dismantling systems that are ripe with inherent racism, so much so that a chief of police in Georgia can tell residents to contact 2 other ordinary citizens to help instead of going to the police, thus resulting in the murder of Ahmaud Arbery. If Hoosick Falls is not willing to consider this, again, as it was considered in the past, then I would ask you to consider not hiring another part-time officer and use that money towards something else in the village. There are a myriad of other things this village could use that money for, or consider donating that money towards Black Lives Matter, justice organizations, and causes. Thank you.
Thank you, Spencer. And thank you for your advocacy. Brian, I think you were next. Oh, Brian, you got to unmute. You have to unmute the mic. It's somewhere on the screen. I'm not sure what device you're on. Typically, it's on the bottom left corner. You got to click the word mute or unmute. There you go.
Is that better?
Yes, Brian. How are you?
Okay, I'm Brian Collis, 19 Justin Street in Latham, New York. I own the Mr. Dingling ice cream trucks. And we've been selling in Hoosick Falls since 1991. It's almost 29 years now. And I know our permit's up for a renewal this year. And I just want to say our trucks are made with, safely with we have the swing arm with the lights come on and this 4-way flashers. And I know the music's been kind of a source of contention, but I know they like to have the music turned off when we stop the truck.
Doesn't get done.
But see, the music helps a lot with the kids. When the cars go by, they can hear the music, so they know that the kids are in the area. So it kind of works both ways with the music. And our driver, Sarah Radcliffe, has been doing Hoosick Falls for the past 13 years. And she would go along whatever the board decides, how do you want the music to be played or not. And I know, Mayor, did you get my COVID? I emailed all our COVID things we're doing with our trucks.
Yeah, I'm going to share that on the screen right now.
Okay.
This is Mr. Dingling's approach to handling COVID-19 precautions. I think trustees, you've already seen this.
To each day, every day, temperature would
Oh, Marion,
be
I think
taken.
you're unmuted, Marion.
I'm sorry.
All good. So a little bit of backstory. We had to postpone the decision on approving it this year because of COVID-19 until we saw sort of how guidances were coming and what sort of phase it was plugged into. We had a couple situations where the truck was actually in the village. The first time, I think it was handled with a phone call from Marie. Second time, the police stopped by to talk to the driver. And since then, they have obviously been in touch, and they have not been here, and they've been waiting for our answer. I know in the past, part of the conversation had been about turning off the music when you're stopped, just because it's a safety issue. If vehicles are coming from behind or around the vehicle and you're parked in a weird spot, or kids do something they're not thinking because they're just thinking this is cool, I have ice cream. So we wanted to make sure that the music can be turned off when you're serving, so that kids can be aware of any oncoming vehicles. Is that something that can happen with the hardware of the truck?
Yeah, there's an on-off switch on the music boxes. That's not a problem.
Trustees, so you have seen, ooh, Mark raised your hand. Yes, Mark. Sorry, Mark, just an alert came up, said you raised your hand. Now, congratulations. I don't know what that means. Trustees, this is something we have on the agenda of the approval of the peddler permits. So if you guys want to chime in or ask any questions, now is the time.
I request some new music. The same song plays over and over again.
Not a problem.
Is there by chance a volume control as well? Because that music, boy, we can hear it from any part of the village to any other part of the village.
Well, yeah, there's a volume control too. We can turn it down.
All right, that would be great. And I think, you know, a lot of people, it's so funny, like here we are, we're discussing the ice cream truck, but it's a surprisingly polarizing thing, because a lot of people absolutely love it and love the history of it and love always having access, and other people are frustrated at hearing the tune and that weird creepy hello that the first time I heard it just freaked me right the heck out. But the subsequent 1,000 times I'm prepared for it now. Trustees, any other questions? Trustees, do you want to bring this decision up right now? I know we have it in the end of the meeting at the new minutes or at the new business, but we could bring it up if you'd like and make a decision on it. Yes, I saw a yes from Ben.
Yes.
Okay, in that case, I'm looking for a motion to approve the vendor peddler application. What is it, Marie? Peddler, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry, thank you. Peddler application for Mr. Dingling. So I need a motion.
Motion.
Thank you, Ben.
I'll second it.
Second, Bobby. B. Ryan. Brian, if you will. Any further discussion on this?
It's Andy here. I would suggest that the motion also add the conditions about the reduced volume of the music, and also that the music be shut off when the ice cream is being served, if that's the pleasure of the trustees.
Ben, Bobby, does that work for you?
I'm good with that, Mayor.
Works for me.
And
I
Brian?
agree with that.
That's all right, manageable?
Yeah.
All right, brilliant. Anything else from the trustees? Or Andy, thank you. All right, hearing none, all in favor?
Something if I can.
Oh, I'm sorry, wait, Denise, I'm sorry, you had a question?
Oh, sorry.
The application actually stipulated the timeline, but I know in the past, there have been some people that were concerned about how long the peddler permit went for. And I don't know if that's stipulated in the application or if you want to state it in the motion.
Marie, do you recall last year how long it went for? I know there was some confusion about Halloween, but You could probably speak to this better than I could, Marie.
Believe it goes, hang on. I have to-
Brian, do you remember, does it go through the end of September?
I think last year I went till October 1st, the permit. That way it wasn't Halloween time or anything to.
All right,
Yes.
so
I have it going till October 1st.
all right, so Andy, do we need a separate motion to modify that, or do we just acknowledge that it's going to include in the motion is through October 1st?
My suggestion would be we've added the 2 conditions when the motion was made during the discussion, that the additional condition be that the peddler's permit expire on October 1, 2020, and that be added as a condition on the pending motion.
Okay. Good, trustees?
Good.
Yes.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, passes. Thank you, Brian, very much for hopping in and joining us and answering our questions.
Okay, you're welcome.
All right. Okay, we had a couple, I think we had one more person who wanted to speak in the people to be heard. Was that Harold?
Okay. Question, what is the situation with skateboarders going down the middle of the streets? I've damn near hit one kid up on this hill twice, and he gets very indignant, saying that it's his right to ride down the middle of the street. He starts at the end of Ball Street, goes all the way, comes down through, and he's picking up speed, and as he comes around the corner onto Abbott Street, he never stops for the stop sign, goes right down through, goes through the next stop sign down at Burchard and Classic, and keeps right on going.
Chief, are you on the call still?
I've
Yes.
almost hit this kid twice.
Yes, I'm here.
Chief, we're having a situation with a particular kid who's just kind of violating every single rule that we have talked about with terms of biking and skateboarding in the village. Should Harold call the police?
We have.
And I know who he's talking about.
Okay.
And without mentioning names, we've had numerous situations with him. He's now got a motorcycle, a dirt bike that he rides.
Yeah.
We had a conversation with him. We took the bike from him once, and we've been trying to communicate with him about the respect of other people in the village. It's not just about him. It's about, respecting the residents here, whether they're walking on the sidewalk or in their backyard or whatever it is. And he struggles with people's rights. And I will have another chat with him and see if we can rectify the situation. He seems to be coming around a little bit. So
He wasn't weak.
Yeah, I almost hit him last week again, and he was very indignant.
Oh,
I have the right to be here.
Well, believe me, I've dealt with him right here at the police station many of times, and he's expressed that.
He's
Pardon me?
not a teenager either.
No, he's now 17 years old. I don't want to use the word limited as to what we can do, but unfortunately, Raise the Age has now taken this a little bit step above us. We have communicated to his probation officer and asked them to please stress upon him the importance of respecting other people. So I think we're just going to have to correct him back into family court and have the judge start doing it. He did, believe it or not, spend time down at the county jail one time over his attitude, and that seemed to have straightened it out.
Yeah, I just don't want to hit the kid.
No, I understand that. I understand that. I would ask you to please continue to call the police. I'm not going to say that our hands are tied, because they're not. We'll respond, and for your protection as well as his protection, and we'll try to get this thing taken care of.
Yeah. What are the laws regarding that here in the village?
Well, we have, excuse me. He was arrested one time before for riding on the sidewalks, and he was brought into court. That's when raise the age hadn't taken effect yet. And he had done some damage on the sidewalks, and he was charged for that. And
Yeah,
it
I
was
saw him one
rectified.
time on the tennis courts one time.
And him and I went at it on the tennis courts because I advised him to get off the tennis courts. And I think the village and the town visited that situation where we made it a directive that they're not allowed to be on the tennis courts with the bikes. And during the hours of dusk, we decided that that's when we were going to close the park. And they've been abiding by that. As he gets older, he just ventures off into something else. So I will continue to talk to him and see what I can do to get this thing taken care of.
Well,
It's going to be
okay, I appreciate. One more question.
Yeah,
Rob. Now's the time of year. We don't have snow on the ground. What are the rules and regulations about people having to shovel their sidewalks during the winter months?
Oh, during,
If there isn't one,
I was like,
there
why are we
should be.
shoveling right now? That doesn't make any sense. During the winter months, what are the rules and regulations?
Right, that's what I meant, the winter months. What are the rules and regulations about having your sidewalk shoveled? What's the period of time after a snowstorm that your sidewalk has to be cleared?
Off the top of my head, now it depends a little bit on business district versus outside. Mark, Neil, do you remember the exact timeline is on this?
Neil wasn't able to get in. I think that our local law, and I could be wrong, I'd have to review it, deals with commercial, with the business district. I'm not sure about outside the business district.
It should be a law that encompasses everybody in the village. Everybody should have a time period to get their sidewalk.
It may.
shoveled.
It may. Like I said, I'd have to review it, Harold. I don't remember off the top of my head.
And if not, right now is the time to pass the law for next winter.
Yeah, Harold, we'll look into that and do a review. And Mark, let's see if we can have a review and just a little bit of a report on it next meeting. Marie, can you add that to next meeting's agenda, just a quick review of what the rules are in terms of sidewalks and shoveling?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Anyone else want to speak for people to be heard? Okay.
Yes, I would.
Oh, what was that, Mark?
I would.
Go for it.
I'd like to, speaking now as a village resident, and a supporter of the local police department, I would address the village board and say that I would hope that you certainly wouldn't consider defunding police. Given our location in the county, distance away from sheriff's department and state police at any given time, I think that our local police departments are important. We need them. Defunding them just doesn't seem to make sense to me, based on something that's happened somewhere else in another state. Doesn't make sense. My 2 cents.
All right. Thank you, Mark. Anyone else? Okay, I don't think so. So we will continue on. Let me go back to, Vanessa.
It wasn't working, wasn't coming through. I was just curious if Spencer's looking for a complete defundament, or are you just looking to start investigating and reallocating? Do you want to completely defund?
Well, there are a number of things that go into the idea behind defunding. It's not just like a cut and dry, cut and paste, copy and paste type of situation. So as long as something is being looked into as far as diverting those funds, using them and utilizing them in a different way. So yes, exactly what you said at the end there.
Thank you.
Thank you. I know that's a conversation that right now on a national level is in its infancy, and people think that defund the police means to just, defund the police and have no public safety. I know that's not the discussion, but I am interested to see how that discussion evolves over the coming weeks. I know
I'd
that
gladly be a part of that conversation.
What's that, Mark?
I would gladly be a part of that conversation.
Got it. Thank you. All right. Thank you, guys. Let's move on to the next portion of the meeting. Always the most exciting, the reports. Trustees, I did get the reports out to you. Again, my apologies for the tardiness. And trustees, I do want to say that this past month of trying to balance what I would call the hardest month of teaching of my life along with being married, along with having a family, has been nearly impossible to balance. I have not been able to balance everything that I have had on my plate, so I apologize for that. I know there was a situation, and I know Neil's not on right now, but there was a situation where Neil was ready to go with a standard flowering approach, and I think it was Marianne and Hoosick Rising approached me about making some changes, and I wanted to get us together, and I set a time and then had a zillion things come up and didn't do it. So I know some things have fallen by the wayside, but I just want to personally say my apologies. It's just been such a fluky last month or two, and I am ready for it to be on, although I will also say I'm timid about what this next school year will bring. Anyway, sorry about that personal note. Back to the reports. Treasury report. Ben or Denise, anything you want to mention?
I think Denise is gone. So in the treasurer's report, a band was financed for 15 years at a rate of 1.69% to help finish the garage. It went to Pioneer Bank, although they did receive quotes from Key Bank and the Bank of Greene County, but those percentages were much higher. So they went with Pioneer at a low percentage rate. Also updating PFOA expenses for the 1920 fiscal year.
I was trying to get you out.
Hello?
What?
And tax invoices are into QuickBooks. So, oh, and don't spend any money.
That's pretty much the general approach, right?
That's a monthly thing.
Yeah.
That's kind of like ending the meeting. Same thing.
All right, trustees, any questions for Ben? Hearing none, looking for a motion to approve the treasurer report.
Motion.
Thank you, Craig. Need a second?
Okay.
Bobby, thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next one, police reports.
Okay, for the total calls for the month of May were 159. It was up from April, which was 127. Total calls are for the year is 667. Last year at this time there was 631, and in 2018 it was a total of 517 at this time. Total arrests for this month were 6. There has been a little lower than what we've experienced in the past months, and that's in reference to the courts being where we are with the virus right now. So we've been kind of putting our focus in on other investigations that have been going on. If you look at the service calls, again, total calls for domestics response by the officers was 21, and EMS are 29. They seem to be the same as we go through the months. This past month, the arrests involved false impersonation, criminal trespass. There was a warrant arrest. There was an investigation which an individual was arrested, and he was charged for luring a child, distributing indecent materials to a minor, attempt to use a child in sexual performance and endangering the welfare of a child. This was an individual who was living here in the village. We were able to find that he was using a computer to communicate with a child. Officers investigated. We worked with the state police as well as Homeland Security to investigate this, and an arrest was made. Right now, that's where we are. I'm not going to go through all the calls that we went through in front of you. If you want to ask me any questions on them, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Bob, on Main Street over the summer, it seems like traffic picks up, and we have those signs that are in the crosswalks, and sometimes they are in the crosswalk, sometimes they're not. Or Neil, maybe you can answer this. Are they? It seems like somebody keeps moving them. Sometimes they're in the middle, sometimes they're on the side of the road. They seem more effective in the middle of the road.
I think they're more effective in the middle of the road.
Neil's not on, but I can mention that to him, Kevin.
Yeah,
I noticed. And I say that because I think if it's in the middle of the road, the people can see it more clearly than if it's off to the side of the road.
My daughter and I were downtown a lot on Saturday and Sunday. Noticed cars coming down at a higher rate of speed than normal. But I think those signs in the middle of the crosswalk do help slow down the traffic.
I passed it on to Neil.
Thanks, Bob.
You're welcome. Is there any other questions?
No.
Concerns?
All right, in that case, Bobby?
Well, seeing we're talking about the police force, are we going to discuss, I know it's on the agenda at a later time, but we're going to discuss the appointment of the part-time police officer?
We certainly could do that now, and just as a reminder, we are not allowed to discuss personnel things. So if trustees wanted to, we could entertain a motion and go into executive session. If you guys have reviewed everything and have no concerns, I could certainly entertain the motion to hire that police officer. Andy, that's all appropriate, right?
That's appropriate.
You guys
I would like just to say at this particular time, we are down a few officers and our call volume is increasing. We provide 24-hour service 7 days a week. And some of these investigations that we've been conducting has been taking a lot of time from certain officers that have to dedicate their time to travel, and whether it's over to the state police barracks or the lab. Homeland Security was here today. We've met with them in their office at different times. So there is a need for an additional officer on a part-time basis. And again, the cost of this is next to just purchasing of the uniform. This individual is fully trained. He's been trained, he's been hired by Mechanicville and he's been working there for 2 years. So the cost of it is already in the budget, and it's based on just his work hours that he works, nothing else.
It gives you more flexibility to make sure that the hours that we're trying to schedule normally we're scheduling.
Correct.
Bobby, would you like us to, do you want to make that motion to
Yes.
hire the police officer, part-time police officer, effective immediately?
Yes, and I don't have his name in front of me right now because I don't have my reports in front of me, but Bob, what's his name again? I'm sorry.
It's Michael Burgess, B-U-R-G-E-S-S. Burgess.
Strong resume, a lot of good experience.
Yes, I'd like to make the motion. Yeah, I read the resume. I definitely in favor of that. So I'd like to make that motion.
All right, we have the motion on the table from Bobby. Looking for a second?
Second.
I'll give it to Emily, although I think I saw
Emily.
Ben, but Emily was louder in the headphones, so blame the headphones. Any further discussion, trustees? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
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 And, okay, opposed? And abstentions. Okay, passes unanimously. Any more questions for Chief? All right, hearing none.
Mayor, I'm going to step off because I've got to do an interview with an individual, but
Yep.
I will be available. You just reach out to me on my phone. I'll get right back on.
Will do. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
And
Thanks,
I
Bob.
just got a text from Neil saying that people keep moving those signs out of the middle of the road. So I guess we can just move them back because that's where they're supposed to be. Looking for a motion to approve the police department reports. I think I heard a Craig motion.
Motion.
Or Bobby.
Second.
Second, Ben.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye. And Rob, the only
Aye.
none.
What's that, Bobby?
The only thing I want to say is that I too would want to go on the record that I'm definitely against defunding the police department. I know with dealing with Bob on a regular basis, pretty much daily basis, that the amount of calls and the amount of time that him and his officers put in behind the scenes, especially in cases like we had the arrest of someone trying to lure, a young girl as an adult doing that. And I can't imagine what would be like without police protection in this village. The number of calls are increasing on a monthly basis, and it doesn't seem like it's going down at all, and it doesn't foresee it in the future. So I'm definitely against defunding the police department.
Yeah, I agree, Bob. I also think that unfund is really a bad word to use for, it's really confusing people.
All right. Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, Kevin. We are moving on to the code enforcement reports.
Just open up if anybody has any questions. Pretty much most of the same Just a lot more permits, a lot more inspections as far as I've had more time to do inspections on permits. We're still kind of in a holding pattern for like going through the whole buildings and doing biannual inspections. I have been doing some pre-tenant inspections, but that's about the extent of it. But it really has, I took vacation at the end of May and coming back June 1, it's busy. It's picked up. There's plenty going on. So, but if anybody has any questions, you know, I wish there were another way to do the lawns, and I've even have cheated a little bit on a couple of them, you know, but really technically, and I'm sure Andy will back this up, it's hard to write a violation unless it is actually a violation. So, you know, I have to wait, and it just sets everything back behind what we're doing.
Mark, what's the procedure for you to report along? Do you have to send them a letter first, and then they have so many days before you can act on it, or you can just act on it once it gets to be 10 inches high?
Well, it's a combination, you're right. And I didn't point that out earlier. I have to wait for it to get to 10 inches high. And then the code book doesn't really say, but you need, when I issue the violation, I have to be somewhat reasonable as far as giving people, owners, an opportunity. So what I split it up. If it's a regular homeowner or something's going on, you know, I'll give them 10 days, okay? But if it's a repeat customer, like it's a house from last year that we already had either Jerry or Ed working on, I don't give the 10 days. I just, I made the list, I signed, you know, the list. It's time-consuming process, so opening them up, getting them out to them, those guys are busy too. You know, Ed was able to jump on a lot of them quickly. Jerry was in the middle of a lot of things, and he had some health issues going on. So, you know, those things all come into play.
Yeah, one of the places I reported, and you and I both witnessed how some of these banks do their mowing on Rogers Avenue. I think it's 52 or whatever it is. I think I reported it to you. They came and they mowed the front, left the front near the road unmowed. They didn't mow the sides, but they mowed the back. And a lot of times they take pictures, send it back, and they get paid for it.
I've seen where they've done just a strip and take a picture and send it. So what we do in that case is I still assign it to either Ed or Jerry, write up the violation, and I take my own pictures when I catch them doing that. And I will contact the property maintenance companies and tell them what's going on. I've done that on many occasions because, you know, I don't want people that are just going to come in and do that. You know, that's all they're doing is they're fudging the system, cheating the banks. So, and they're not doing what they need to be doing.
Right.
So people, go ahead, Bob.
Go ahead, Gav.
No, I mean,
I was going to say the other end of the spectrum. You got it. The other end of the spectrum, you got people who are, the bank owns a house. People come up and mow it. And then all the clippings end up on the sidewalk. They come over and blow the sidewalk off. They blow all the clippings into the road, and then move the garbage cans, which hasn't, you know, which is no garbage. No one's been in there in a year and a half, and they left the garbage cans out in the street. I mean, that's the other end of the coin. Rather than having the grass grow high, but they turn around and they get these people who don't care what they're doing. Like you said, they just want to get a paycheck, and then blowing it out. So the lawn looks great, but the rest of the neighborhood looks like hell because they blow the clippings out in the yard, out in the road. Not much you can do about that, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's you know, it's somewhat limited unless I can actually see somebody doing that.
Right.
You know, there's been times if I see the garbage cans, I know it's a house that's empty, I'll pull the garbage cans back myself. I'm just glad they mowed the lawn if they did the whole thing. So, you know, that's always a good thing. I have been, you know, letting people know who do live in houses about the garbage cans. Just try and send them a letter, give a heads up. Actually, what I'll do is I'll do a violation, and I don't delete the violation, I just close it. It's just to give them a heads up that they need to pull the garbage cans back. So that is another issue that comes up sometimes too. I used to beg Ann not to make me the garbage police. So,
also, can I interrupt for a minute? Also, with this house next to us, the backyard has not been done. again, it's become a dumping ground, so it's a mess back there. I mean, our neighbor did do the front yard to have it look good out front, but the backyard is a disaster.
All right, we'll make sure Jerry knows.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions for Mark?
Kevin, you started to say something else?
No, I was just talking about the banks and on how some are better than others. And actually the one that next to Marion's, it transferred from a private homeowner to a bank. So that's a bank-owned property now as well.
Yes, yep. Any other questions?
Well, thanks, Mark.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you, Mark. Hearing none, looking for motion to approve the code enforcement report.
Motion.
Thank you, Craig. Looking for a second.
Second.
Thank you, Vanessa. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. We do not have a community service report because due to COVID-19, community service is still shut down at this point. Village clerk, deputy clerk report. Marie, you want to highlight anything?
No, I don't think so. Other than we did just get the property taxes out. So people will be getting those. They can pay those by check, bank check, send them into the office or drop them in the front. And sadly, no cash and no credit card on that.
And I forgot to have this ready and mention, but we did send out a little just simple mailer document that that reminded people of the difference in the utility bill deadline and the property tax time where we would apply the penalty. So they do have a reminder in with that bill of both of those things. We have gotten, Judy, Murray, what do you think? About a third of the water bills have been paid so far? Or half? Is that about right?
That about, yeah.
Okay. So even with the extension, we've still gotten about a third to half, which is a good sign. So yeah, I forgot to send that out to you, trustees, but you'll get one. All right, looking to what's the next report we have here? 1 second. I have like 4 screens in front of me. Any questions for Marie or Judy? Hearing none, looking for motion to approve the clerk, deputy clerk report.
Motion.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Craig. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? All right, carries. Highway Department, I know Neil had some difficulty getting on here, or it's difficulty getting on here. We'll have to figure that out later. Bob, is there anything you want to highlight?
No, not really. Just these, I know that Abbott Street is going to be the main street that we're going to be paved this year with the CHIPS money. And he was planning on doing some hot patching starting next week or this week, I think. It all depends on manpower, how he's staffed. That's what's has been holding him up on getting the hot patch.
Yeah.
He's done some cold patching, but he's getting ready to start doing some hot patching.
We do have a couple projects that I'm working with Andy on that were some concerns from people. Weird things, a particular building, or there's a particular road that has a drainage issue that we're trying to work on. So we're still working through that. It's just taking some time. But Neil has been involved and Andy has been involved. So there's been a lot of projects going on while Neil has also been watching all these other projects finish. And of course, as my school year ends, I'm going to be hopping back into the Woodsbrook buyout program, and we'll be checking with B&L on the Woodsbrook work that they've been doing. I think Mark had mentioned earlier that they've been doing some survey work up higher outside the village, and that's the grant that we the village and the town are in together on. So all that's coming. So suffice to say, Neil has 1,000 projects going on right now.
I just
Well,
want
he did mention that he was also putting curbing in on Richmond Avenue, and I'm not quite sure. I can't remember what the other street was.
There has been a resident who's been super patient with us about this, and this is that's the one he's referring to. It's I can't remember off the top of my head what her name is. It's up in the Snow Street area, I think, but I can't remember exactly where. But that's another curb project that's going in.
So, Rob, I just want that that resident has approached me as well, and they have a basement flooding issue basically from water drainage off the road, right?
Yeah, that's, what road is that near?
Snow, it's on the
It is-
top, the highest one, Snow Street.
Okay. I'm just double checking with Neil, but the last time I spoke with him, that was one of the curbs that was going to be going on.
And then don't forget also last year we had after the water lines were done up here, we had a person on the corner of Wilder who got a blacktop sidewalk and was looking for that to be done consistent with the rest of the stuff in the neighborhood. Don't want to forget about him.
Yeah, I'll double check with that. I know he's got a bunch of things on the radar, and I know he has been behind. Also,
he
because
mentioned the Wilder Avenue one to me because he asked me about my side, and I know he is planning on doing that one.
All right, thank you, Mark.
Just
And
one other
Mark,
thing.
is there a new house going in on Ball Street?
Yes, there is. It's a large house. So I've been there doing inspections this week.
No, I just noticed all the excavation equipment, and I saw the footings for, it looks like they're gonna pour a cellar.
They poured the walls today, and you'll have no problem seeing the house.
Okay.
I know Neil's way behind. One thing for the list is crosswalks and parking spaces. A lot of those are really faded where you can't even see them. So, and maybe some other time this summer he can get to those.
Andy, I have a question for you. We had 0 applications for summer help, and normally this would be the June meeting where we would approve people. If we have applications come in and we review them and we want to hire someone, we still would have to do that in a meeting, even if it were just a quick special meeting, right? There's no way we could sort of give the authority to someone now to do that as a board, correct?
That's a board determination, and you could always call a special meeting. It can be 10 minutes whenever people are free to address that, but it is a board determination.
All right, so yeah, please put the word out. We are looking for summer help. Any news folks who are hiding in the shadows, muted and listening, please insert that into your reports for this meeting, please.
How many, Rob, are we looking for?
We have done 2 in the past. I think that would be the minimum. I think there may be able to be an argument for having a 3rd, especially because we're behind and there's a lot on the agenda, but that would have to be a look at the budget and check question. But I know at minimum we're looking for 2.
Okay.
I know Neil always looks for at least 18 years old. I could think there's a requirement of operating the weed whackers and things like that.
Right.
All right. So with that, unless there's any more questions for Bobby, we're looking for a motion to approve the highway department reports.
Motion.
Motion. Second.
Thank you, Bobby. Thank you, Craig, for the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Sounded like hi, not I. Hi, just kidding. All right, passes. On to the next report here. Sewer department report. Anything anyone wants to highlight or ask about? Obviously, Kenny's been involved with the New River Road pump station starting. He was actually sent me some pictures today, which were the ones I showed earlier. And we finished off our year with $144,000 of income specific to gallons dropped off, sludge dropped off. So very good year, and I expect him to double it. Just kidding. That's not how it works.
Just one question in regards to the sewer. Are we still using Dan Merrill's for his certification, or is Kenny certified 100% now?
I don't think Kenny has finished the certification, so I feel like Merrill's still has like a couple hours every couple weeks.
Right, I knew that's what it was. It used to be a few hours every 2 weeks. That's on the timesheets, but I just haven't seen the timesheets recently. I just want to. It's curious.
I'll double check. I'll double check with that because I know that there was some And I know that Keith was also looking to get some form of certification, but I'll check in and see where they are with that.
Okay, just curious.
Any other questions on the sewer report? Hearing none, looking for a motion to approve the sewer report.
Motion.
Thank you, Ben.
Second.
Thank you, Craig. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries, thank you. And the final report, water report. Not a lot of stuff to highlight here. Emily, you want to highlight anything?
I'm good.
Okay. In that case, looking for a motion to approve the water report.
Motion. Second.
Give that to Vanessa and Craig with the second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Carries. All right. All right. On to the next part of the meeting. Where am I at here? Minutes. We have the minutes were sent out for the regular meeting for May 12th. Does anybody have any corrections to issue or suggest? Hearing none, looking for a motion to approve the May 12th minutes.
Motion.
Thank you, Ben. Second.
Second.
I think that was Bobby or Craig or something. Hopefully Marie got that. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Get this
Aye.
out of here. Opposed? Carries. Okay. Trustee committee reports. I'll go around the horn from where I am on my screen. So Ben, anything?
No, just enjoying being on the board till September.
As we all are. Bobby.
Thank you.
The only thing I need to mention, last month, we discussed trash cans in the village, and I contacted a member of the LDC, and I provided a quote that Kevin had gotten for us regarding 10 trash cans, and the LDC is going to review it, the quote, and get back to us. I believe if they agree to, the board agrees to it, they will be purchasing the trash cans. And he asked a couple of the questions that were asked were, who were going to maintain them and where they were going to be located. I don't have the exact locations, but we would have our village highway crew empty them, and then on a weekly basis, so that we don't have an overflowing situation. And so I just want to give an update on that. Nothing firm yet, but that is in the process, and hopefully we'll have an answer pretty soon.
All right. Thank you, Bobby. Marie, can you just make a note before the next meeting to check in with Bobby and the LDC about the garbage cans, and also to check in with Neil, because we'll need to have a plan. And maybe some of those cans are only used in the spring and summer and fall and hidden away, so that the DPW doesn't have to handle all those all season long. But we can have a discussion with Neil.
Right, and they're the type that are mounted, they would actually be mounted on concrete, on either a pad or the sidewalk.
Oh, awesome.
And so they would be pretty much permanent fixtures unless Neil mounted them where they could be removed, like you said,
okay,
in the non-summer months, whatever.
All right.
And the garbage receptacle down by the across from the laundromat at the north end entrance to the greenway. The old one that was falling apart was removed. Neil temporarily put the portable trash receptacle there, and that's been removed. Him and his highway crew built a replacement, and the replacement has been installed.
Yeah. So that's great. That's good to hear. And I know a couple of people had requested that garbage can go back. So thanks to Neil and his crew for doing that as well. Thank you, Bobby.
Hey,
Kevin? Oh, Craig, was that you? Did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to, you made a mention of, actually Ben made of the elections in the fall.
Mm-hmm.
I assume that New York State was clever enough that the petitions that everyone got signed are still valid for that election in the fall.
Andy? I see you nodding over there.
Yes, yes, Craig, that was addressed in the executive order that the petitions that had been prepared for the prior date are still valid.
Thank you.
That's good.
All right. Craig, do you have anything else for you since we're there with you right now?
I do not.
All right, Kevin?
Had a conversation with Andy the other day about the parking lot issues that we've been hemming and hawing over for the last year or so. Hopefully we can get something by the next meeting and start moving forward with public hearings for those 3 parking lots.
All right, Kevin, feel free to text me every week or so to check on that. And Marie, please add that to the list so we have that ready for next meeting.
Yeah, the other thing is that we talked about trash cans, but there's other needs in the village as well that we need to work on. And I think I sent Rob an email and the rest of the board, but some of the benches around the village are starting to show their age. You sit on some and you get pinched by the rotten wood. And also the municipal building, the front door shakes, the whole frame shakes, and also a lot of the ornamental woodwork around is rotting as well. So I think that's something it's aesthetically we need to address, I think, in the next summer or fall.
Yeah, and a conversation that we've had in the office here is if we get to the point where we're reopening and we're taking people back in the window, we need to redo the current setup to make it adhere to the various restrictions that we have for COVID-19. So the current window system we have won't work. And we've already started to look into some plans in that. We've actually looked at a couple places. I really liked what they have set up at Trusco Bank. I think Judy, or you may have mentioned the Key Bank one was also quite nice. And we've already had some preliminary discussions. So I think that in the coming weeks, we'll probably iron out a plan and get that work to happen. So that if we get to the point where we're opening things back up in here, we're ready and things are suitable here.
What is our status for our workforce? I know Neil's guys are back to work, but the water and sewer are working every other day. Why is there a difference between one group and another?
The water and sewer being 50-50, when we first came up with that, and Andy, you can help me fill in the blanks here. When we first came up on that, we had to have an overall reduction of 50%. And then I think there was some discussion within the county about opening up to more DPW because they somehow shifted to be considered essential workers. That being said, I can certainly look back at the situation and see if we want to bring them back in at the full load. I'm trying to remember what other municipalities have done. I feel like the majority of municipalities in the county have their DPWs back at near full or full. Andy, do you have any other thoughts on that?
Rob, I think you're correct on that. I think most of the municipalities in the county are back to 100% DPW. And you're correct. Initially, it was the overall executive order was reducing municipal workforce by 50%, but the governor left it up to the individual municipalities to deem who were essential initially and how you would meet that 50% reduction. Then there was a shift toward DPW being deemed essential. It's been a little fluid. Yeah, it's been a little fluid, but realize that the governor has now also provided that, and Rob, I think we received something directly from the Labor Council's firm on this. I know I did, that once the various regions in the state have been in phase 2 and completed phase 2, 2 weeks thereafter, I think the municipal workforce can come back 100%, subject to check.
Okay, let's look into that, Andy.
I know where I work at the county, the workforce that came back this week. When is our office going to be opening back up again?
That's another discussion we have to have. I don't have a decision on that yet. Obviously, we'll need to have the new window set up in place before that happens. Marie, Judy, have we had any complaints about not having access to the windows at this point? I know phones have been working, Dropbox in the main lobby is open 24 hours and it's been working.
Yes, we haven't had any complaints.
Okay.
It's been working good.
So what's our current situation now? Is there 3 days a week that someone's there?
No, it's 4 days a week. I want to say is it 8 to noon? Someone's here, and sometimes it overlaps. But they have it at minimum 8 to 12 Monday through Thursday because we're on summer hours. It used to be, I want to say we had like 3 hours Monday through Friday, but when we do summer hours and we take out the Friday, we went to 4 hours Monday through Thursday. And then the rest of their time is working from home with the village laptops.
Wasn't there some discussion last year about summer hours?
We did discuss it. I don't think it was a unanimous decision, but I know that last year we did make the decision to shift to the Monday through Thursday, where we added, I think we added an hour in the day and took out a part of a break, and that ended up adding to the same amount of hours in a work week as the Monday through Friday without summer hours. Marie, is that what was last year's setup?
Yes, that's what we have.
Okay.
I think we talked about it last year at the end, and there had been some complaints that we weren't being open on one day of the week. They're going to do business, and we were going to revisit that in the spring.
Well, I think let's revisit that in email over the next week or two, especially as we start to get our plans solidified to getting the windows back to operating procedure. And Andy and I will review what the requirements are right now. And I'll also speak with the village office staff. If we need to make any other office physical changes in here to make room to spread things out more, if that's what the requirement is, we'll do that. But we'll have those discussions internally here to get the plan in place for the windows. And trustees, maybe we start an email thread and discuss this through the week, unless there's anyone else wants to share something right now. Obviously, I don't want to poo-poo that in any way.
The only thing I want to say, Rob, is anything that we have done as far as work, I know we've relied a lot on Jerry and the community service, but something like this, especially the main entrance to our municipal building, I think we definitely should have that done professionally by a contractor.
Okay.
Don't you? I mean, I know it's going to cost us money, but we need to spend money because right now it's the way the door is. It's not acceptable, and I don't know if someone who's set up for community service is going to actually be able to walk in and be I don't know if we have carpenters who are there, and I would prefer to have someone professionally do it. I don't want to spend the money, but I think we have to at some point.
That makes sense, and I don't think Neil will argue with us hiring out because it's one less thing for him to worry about. I'm eager to see a Neil text on
Especially
that
the
one.
windows for the girls too. So
Yes. Yep. All right. So Kevin, anything else? Okay, Vanessa, did we check in with you?
I have nothing.
Okay, and Emily?
For me, Vanessa had asked me to take over the Greenway, so I'm going to take over the Greenway. I do need to learn about it and get in contact with the gentleman that she put me in contact with. I haven't heard back from him yet, and other than that, there was nothing else.
Hey, Marie, can you send an email out to the Greenway crew, the committee, to make sure they have Emily's trustee email and know that she's going to be involved there?
Yes.
Emily, if you're free Friday, maybe you can go along with Neil to check in on the restoration work they're doing.
I would love to do that.
All right. I'll tell Neil to check in with you once that time is scheduled. Then you can get your introduction to those parts of the Greenway.
Perfect.
Anything else, Emily?
Nope.
Great. Thank you. Moving on. I got all the trustees, right? I think I was counting there and I got them all. If not, speak up or don't. Let me move on. Old business. I'm still like to table the transfer station discussions for another couple months until we think about it for next year. So I'm looking for a motion to table the transfer station.
Motion to table.
Thank you. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Emily. Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, great. Carries. I do want it there each month, so I remember to plan for that. All right, last meeting we tabled 2 of the 3 change orders, change order number 3 and number 4. I spoke with Neil prior to that meeting and we had some concerns about it. I sent you guys an update on earlier today. We did get the contractors to waive one of the labor costs for $308, which we thought was excessive for something they already would have done. But their request to do something about the other change order, they felt they could not do because they already had decided not to add any overhead in. So the charges on that are specific to what their actual cost was for those parts for the subcontractors. So we can argue the fine print minutia, or we can just kind of accept that they had to be because of the situation and move forward. Any thoughts on that? At this point, I'm ready to approve those change orders, and we'll just have to do it with whichever change order it was. I can't remember if it was change order 3 or 4 has the one change. We'll find that in the motions. Any thoughts?
I'm in favor of approving both. I think we've done our due diligence and done all we can do. We're getting to the point of nickel and dime in it and spending more money than we're going to recoup. So I'm okay with approving both. I think we've done a good job on it.
Okay. And it's change order 4 that they're going to reduce by $308. I just found that. So unless there's any other discussion, then I'm looking for a motion to approve change order 3 as is.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Emily. Any further discussion? Again, this was for an increase in $79.45 for J squared. All right. Hearing no discussion, all in favor of the change order? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Opposed? All right. That passed unanimously. Looking for a motion to approve change order 4 with the one modification that we are not going to pay the $308 labor cost as the contractors J squared agreed to. So this would be $2,500 minus the $308, which is $2,192 or something like that.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, move to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, carries unanimously as well. Thank you. We've already done the Delaware Engineering old business, so we are now on to new business. We have already completed the discussion and hiring of the part-time police officer. So we are now at the fourth to last point, the motion to adjust a property tax bill. I just want, this was something that came to us through Denise. The basic gist is that there was a re-levy that was applied to the bill, but the re-levy had actually already been paid, and Denise tracked that down and confirmed that. So it just requires board approval to make this change. Marie, Judy, is that correct and explained right?
Yes.
All right. Andy, anything else you want to jump in with, or this is just how we have to handle this?
Nope, that's how you handle it, through board action.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to adjust the property tax bill on this bill.
Motion.
Second.
All right, that was to Bemily. And second, we'll give it to Emily, and second by Bobby, I think. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Carries unanimously. So that's set. Trustees, I sent to you guys another request to a water, a request to adjust a village utility bill, water bill, specifically due to a leak. They did send us let me bring it up here, a receipt that showed they had made the fix. Ironically enough, we know that the leak actually happened again at this property. But that being said, we had this issue come up, and we have researched a lot of village law. And I think on your screen right now, if I did it right, is the village law that specifically highlights why we can or can't do bill adjusting refunds and abatements. And as you'll see right there, number 1, where an error has been made in the reading of the meter preparation of the bill. 2, where the meter upon test shows an average over registration greater than 2%. Or 3, when any charge of the village has been paid twice or incorrectly. And the one above that, 3.311, the amount of water registered by a meter shall be charged and paid in full, irrespective of whether such water, after having been registered, was lost by leakage, accident, or otherwise. So Andy, as we've discussed before, it's my analysis that we are locked in based on village law, and we cannot accept this request to adjust the water bill. Is that correct?
That's correct. I mean, the local law on water is very straightforward, and my review, it does not provide any basis to waiver or amend that. In order to do so, you'd have to consider an amendment to your local law.
Trustees, any questions or other thoughts on that? Okay, hearing none. Andy, do we have to do a motion if we're going to deny it?
Well, there's been a request submitted to the board for the adjustment. I think the board should entertain then a motion saying acknowledging receipt of the request, but based on village local law, the request is not granted to adjust the water bill.
Would someone like to entertain that motion?
Motion.
Thank you, Emily. Looking for a second.
Second.
Thank you, Bobby. I know that it's unfortunate because it is kind of a substantial bill. Andy, do we have, or does the village office or even the mayor's authority that we could work out a general like pay over time type situation if it's a really large bill? Is that something that's we can be done at the discretion of the mayor or village office?
You see my hesitancy.
Wanna
I'll
get
get
back
you
to
an
us?
answer. I'll get you an answer for that.
All right. In the meantime, we have the motion on the floor to deny
Right.
the request. Any further discussion? All in favor of denying the request?
Aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Motion carries unanimously. I just want to go back to my PowerPoint here because I think I had a couple extra things come up at the last minute. Let's see here. We've already had the discussion regarding Mr. Dingling. Is my screen shared for you guys right now?
Yes.
Okay, sweet. Okay. Trustees, we had this come in yesterday. We had a discussion, or we had a request to use Wood Park for candlelight vigil on June 25th. This is a request that I emailed a couple hours ago because I just got it yesterday. It is specific to the situation. It's basically something, and I spoke with the lady who sent the email and submitted it and wanted to do something positive in the wake of the George Floyd death. So she's requesting that on June 25th, which would be a month after the George Floyd death, we would have approximately about a 20-minute candlelight vigil set, roughly speaking, around sunset, but she's flexible on this, to commemorate the death and stand in solidarity with the family and peacefully protest excessive force. At the same time, she wanted it to basically to be something very positive, and the general message was we stand in opposition to what happened to George Floyd, and we in Hoosick Falls do not support that and do not act this way. And it's just a simple way of taking a minute to digest what happened and showing solidarity that we do not believe in that sort of thing. I was quite taken aback at how well the request was worded. Additionally, my conversation with her, when I spoke with Chief, he was also in favor of this. The request came for actually the mayor and the chief to speak briefly, but the emphasis was on brief because this isn't about speeches or a huge organization thing going on. It's just a chance to get together and as the words say in the email, commit ourselves to racial equality and the equal and fair application of the law in our area, regardless of skin color. I know this is a late thing, but it came in yesterday. Chief and I are in support of doing this. We actually think that this could catch on quite and likely become a bigger event than she was thinking. I think she was only thinking maybe 50, max 100 people to turn out, but I have a feeling that this could be bigger. And the chief and I already talked about closing off a the small portion of Main Street right outside Wood Park to do this. So trustees, let me open up the floor to you guys and get your thoughts on that request and this events. And Andy, if you need to chime in on anything, certainly feel free.
Go ahead, Vanessa.
I was just saying, I think that's great. I'm all for it.
Okay. Kevin?
I just wonder whether if we allow a big gathering, would that allow band concerts to be held as well this summer?
The band concert thing is a separate question, and I think there's a possibility for that. I don't know if the community band as a group would be ready to do that without rehearsals, but I think the skating rink provides a very interesting and unique setting to do that in a socially distant way. Kevin, let me come back to that because that is something that I meant to bring up with you guys and get your thoughts on, but I'll come back to that.
Certainly the skating rink isn't ideal for the band concert. The acoustics are terrible.
Yeah, it's like the Armory. It's not ideal for the sound of the concert, but for the actual physical get-together and social distancing, that would work. The gazebo would never work because if you tried to do 6 feet of separation with the band, you'd fit about 6 people up there, and that'd be that.
Yeah.
I have something to say. I'm in support of doing it. I would just take into account that with the recent cases of COVID in the village, maybe watch those over the next week and a half. And, if we have more, maybe reconsider. I don't know. Just throwing that out there because it will draw people together.
I think, and I spoke with a person who wanted to do this, and actually she's doing this with a friend who's a former, student community member who everyone knows and loves, who's also African-American. And I just think it's a great event, but your point is taken. I did offer to sort of help with the messaging, assuming that the board was good with this as an event, to make sure that social distancing was going on, and we would want to stress that very, very clearly, regardless of how much how COVID does over the next few weeks. But your point is absolutely well taken, Emily.
Rob, who's responsible for making sure that everybody has masks and is socially distant during the event?
I think that would come down to police. I don't know what their authority is, if they can suggest or make. I would have to consult with Chief and consult with Andy on that. Okay. And I know the organizers would also be stressing that themselves. Andy?
Yeah, Ben, that's a really difficult question. You've heard a lot about that, the requirements for social distance and who's got the authority to enforce that. The word seems to be from the governor that it's subject to local enforcement, but from what I've read and been able to review, it's hard to determine exactly how that would happen. I think it'd be very important if the village approves the use of village property for this to emphasize wearing of masks and maintaining social distancing, and that should be prominent. Just remember, right now, the governor's subject to check, but the governor's most current executive order on social gathering, subject to limited exceptions, is still 10. Obviously for church gatherings, for the graduations that was recently discussed, but in general, social gathering is still maintained at 10. The protests that have sprung up obviously have gathered a lot more people. They've been occurring principally on public property, and those have been allowed to proceed. So are there real clear rules on that point, Ben? There unfortunately right now is not. And I think the prudent thing for the board to consider if it's going to permit this, again on village property, is to prominently emphasize the use of masks, social distancing, and any other applicable protocols for this for public health purposes.
Rob, are you going to use the gazebo for your
Yes,
point
and
of where
I
you're
think,
going to
yeah, and we would use the village sound
start this?
system to get that out there. Absolutely.
I think it might be a good idea that you have masks available for folks that maybe forgot or decided not to bring one, and just suggest. The worst thing that we could have, and I support it, but the worst thing that we could have happen is to have a lot of people come in from wherever, and then all of a sudden have a spike in our village. So I think we just have to be really careful about, social distance, masks. We're going on what, 3 months now that we've been, a lot of folks have been cooped up in their house and not being able to do anything. And, we just need to be aware of that.
All right. Well, Bobby, I'm sorry, you're going to say?
Yeah, I support the concept 100%. As far as the social distancing and the mask, I don't think the village is in the situation where we can provide them. I mean, first of all, you can't make them wear them. It's a recommendation. I go to, you go to Stewart's every day, or you go to Tops every day, and although they have signs on the front door, they do not enforce if someone comes in and does not wear a mask. And I've talked to Bobby Ash about this as well. And it's not, the police are not enforcing. His concept was to pull, if they see a gathering of people, he has an officer come over, approach the people and recommend and make them aware of the social distancing guidelines. But we really can't make people wear a mask. As much as we all want to be safe and we all want them to, you really can't enforce it. I don't believe there's any arrests been made, probably statewide, in regards to this. I don't know that as a fact, but I don't know how we can enforce it.
Oh, no, I wouldn't even, I totally get what you're saying. I walk into Stewart's all the time and people are without masks. And,
it annoys me, don't get me wrong. Yeah.
I totally get it. But Mayor, it is something that you should at least mention.
Yep.
Many times.
Or maybe perhaps the group might want to provide the mask.
That might not be a bad idea. But again, I totally get it that you can't tell people that they have to. So I get that part. And if you're really concerned about it, I guess you don't go. But
so ironically enough, as I thought this would catch, this idea would catch on and it would be higher than 100 people, we've already had someone on the Facebook live stream being supportive of this and even offering to help organize it and donate some PPE. So I think the will be out there, and I think we'll get some support on that.
But again, I totally get it that we can't mandate that people do. I just think for us, it's smart to at least let people know. That's all.
And Andy?
Yeah, on that, you should probably coordinate with the county too and see if there's any available masks that could be provided. And again, if the board considers this, you will be having the ability to speak to the crowd right at the inception to re-emphasize masks are available.
Okay.
We emphasize the use of them and maintain social distancing. I think the village has done what it can do in terms of getting that direction out.
I agree.
Thank you. Anyone else? In that case, it sounds like, based on discussion, I'm looking for a motion to approve the use of Wood Park for this candlelight vigil on June 25th with the express understanding that all social distancing guidelines should be followed, including masks and proper spreading out.
Second.
Ben and Vanessa, any further discussion, or Andy, anything you want to straighten up on that?
Yep, and I would add just one condition on coordination with an appropriate, safety or security plan with the village police department.
Okay. Great. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carries. Great. All right. And I think there was one more thing that came up at the last minute as well that I wanted to bring up to you guys. Trustees, we had a new vendor / peddler application come in. Did I get it out to everybody or no? I sure meant to.
You did.
It was very, very late in the game. Marie, did we even have enough information on this to be specifically figure out where this was going to be?
No, he did not tell us where he was going to put it. We're still trying to figure that out. He and Mark were talking, and also there was discussion about talking with the chief as to where in the village. This is the Bistro 42 who is looking to do a food truck. He just talked about trying to have it on Lower Classic, a couple of doors down from the restaurant. So Mark was going to talk to him.
Andy, did you get a copy of that?
I did, and I'd only advise the board that if you don't think there's enough information to act on that, you certainly want to have a full understanding of the permit application and make it clear for what the permit's to be issued for.
Mark?
But I did get it, but that's really the issue, was the completeness of it.
All right, Mark?
It's it might be a little tough. If you look at that area, there's not a lot of room in front of their place. And as you get out on the street, you have a business, and there may be some room, but that's an area where they're talking about closing the street off due to the roof construction starting next week. So, yeah, I definitely think we need a little more information as to what their intent is and how they would move people around and the parking and stuff. You know, parking probably isn't that much of an issue, depending on the hours that they're doing it, but exactly where they want to put it. You know, there might be some room out there. Well, no, not really. They're doing that roof project. So until that roof project is done, you know, for Civic Year, on the Civic Year building, that would be very limited. I started to say, like, right in front of the Civic Year building, the sidewalk is much wider, and there probably would be some room there, but not during the construction phase. That will be roped off.
Do peddler permits have to be specific to a location?
Aren't they usually? I've never been involved in one in the village, and even in the town, we've just gotten our first couple that we've had to deal with. I think you need, to have some kind of an idea of where they're going to be.
Taking Mr. Dingling into you know, his situation, he gets a peddler's permit, but he doesn't have a particular spot where he parks. So,
well, that's mobile. You know, that's different.
A food truck is somewhat mobile too.
Well,
I mean, he could instead of putting it in front of his building, he could put it in Wood Park or near Wood Park or anywhere that he wants.
The last one we had was a hot dog wagon that was down in the parking lot across from the laundromat. The last one I remember. Right.
And also, I know somebody contacted me about a vendor permit or a peddler's permit for a food cart, a food truck, and I put them through to Marie. And Marie, did you get any feedback from the state on whether it's allowable at this time?
Yes, it was allowed, but he was actually looking when he called me for the town. He is also possibly interested in doing it in the village in the summer, but he was waiting to see about summer concerts and band concerts.
Right. I talked to him initially about the band concerts and St. Patrick's Day, who was supposed to be here, and then that all fell through. So,
right.
Evan, you're talking about somebody different, though, right? You're not talking about this permit application, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Personally, I think on this one we need more information. It seems like it was put together kind of last minute. You know, I think it's reasonable for us to ask where, what locations, what hours of operation. You know, I mean, I'm not opposed to it, but I also don't think, you know, competition with our existing local businesses and having a food truck parked outside of your restaurant would be a thing other business owners would necessarily think is a good idea. So we need to keep our current business base in mind as well.
But he does own a restaurant in the village that was going to open back around St. Patrick's Day, and he, of course, that was thwarted because of the COVID-19.
In the interest of time and not having to make it wait for another month, is it possible to pass it contingent on finding a suitable location that is acceptable?
I'd like Location and hours of operation. I'd like to know the hours of operation and the location.
I can, yeah, I can give him a call in the morning and get that information out to you guys.
And I also don't think it would be too hard to set up a Zoom meeting, special meeting, to approve this if we all want to approve it and if we feel like the schedule is good.
Is there any other information you guys want? I got location, hours of operation.
Andy?
Is this in lieu of opening the restaurant or in addition to opening the restaurant?
I think it's in lieu of right now because he can't technically open because of COVID.
Well, one of his problems is he doesn't have enough room for outdoor seating at the moment, so that's inhibiting him quite a bit unless he stuck chairs and tables on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
So this isn't a question.
Bet his
directly,
license doesn't allow that.
but just a question. So other restaurants are doing just to go food orders, and it's not relevant to his getting this permit, but could he open up and work out of the restaurant and just do to go? What's the difference between parking a truck down the street and serving to go out of your restaurant?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Well, that's not correct because restaurants are eligible to put out outdoor dining in now as well, so people can sit outside.
I think I get Greg's point though, that why aren't they at least doing that much? The to-go.
Well, I think we should help him out as much as we can because this guy invested a lot of money in the community, and he's been waiting for 3 months, and if we can make it a little bit easier for him to get going again, I'm all for it.
I think if we get the information we need, I think it sounds like we're all generally for it, especially since he's a local business. So we would just need to get a special meeting together to approve it. Other trustees' thoughts?
I'm in favor, as long as we get the information like Craig asked, the location and the hours of operation. I'm definitely supportive.
Yeah, one last thing. I mean, we had something from Mr. Dingling tonight on how he's keeping it safe for COVID-19. I think it's reasonable to include those precautions in the permit, whatever he's going to do.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
Andy, any other thoughts?
No, and Mark, if you do contact him, rather than simply saying the protocols, what is Mr. Dingling submitted his plan for compliance with state health protocols? I think you should ask this vendor to submit his.
So so you're saying that separate, yeah. All right. So he has to have it. I think also I noticed.
Mark, it doesn't have to be a full plan. It just like Mr. Dingling sending in what amounts to a letter or a memo saying these are the protocols that I'll use when operating, whether it be the food truck or the what have you.
Okay.
All right. Just so the board knows.
Is it a separate health department permit too?
Food truck. I think it is a separate health department permit.
Because one of the ones we processed in the town had a permit for, but they didn't have a restaurant. So
I think with the food truck, Mark, you're correct. He needs to confirm with the county about separate permit requirements.
Okay. All right, I'll review all that with him.
All right, so it looks like we're looking for motion to table this vendor's peddler license approval until we get some more information.
Motion to table.
Thank you, Ben.
Second.
Second, Emily. Emily, I think you were going to say something. Do you still want to?
I was just going to say that Mr. Dingling wrote on his form there, like, accepting card rather than cash more, wiping down the counter in between. That's what he laid out for his COVID precautions.
Okay. Great. All in favor of tabling this? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. That is all I have for business. Anyone else have any business they want to bring forward to the board? Andy?
Rob, if I could, just because it was discussed earlier in the meeting, I did look up that while the meeting was going on, that memo from Labor Council. The governor's initial executive order declaring a state emergency was Executive Order 202. Since then, he's issued 39 additional executive orders. Executive Order 202.35 extended the 50% workforce reduction for municipalities through June 28th. So absent any further extension, municipalities can go back to 100% workforce on site starting on June 29th. That could be subject to a further extension by the governor through another executive order, but that's the current status of that. So basically through the end of June, municipalities are still currently under the 50% workforce reduction requirement.
Okay. But that also does give us a timeline where we want to get the new window set up, installed in the office in case we do open back up.
Right.
Okay.
And that would include more the water and sewer guys the most, correct? Because Neil's guys are back to 100% working.
Well, that's where we get into, certainly in this county, and I think Rensselaer County brought back their full DPW, their highway staff. Most municipalities have brought back, just because it's that time of year, brought back.
Mark, are you staffed 100% now?
Yes,
Town?
but highway was considered essential,
Yeah.
and that was the difference there.
It is, and it got real difficult to decipher this stuff because the original executive order on workforce reduction used the same term, essential, and said the municipality had to determine what workers were essential and factor that into, if you're essential, that counted toward your 50% on-site workforce. It got very difficult when highway departments were deemed essential because that could be a lot of workers, and that put a burden on the balance of the workforce. So to say that this has been in a state of flux is, I think, accurate. So we're working toward that. We'll see what the governor does in June, but right now this may be over by the end of June and back to 100% workforce for municipalities.
I think the governor was talking the other day about moving the capital region into phase 3 by next week, possibly.
Kevin, we're on schedule for that.
Week from tomorrow.
Yeah, I think tomorrow was 1 week into phase 2 for this region. So presuming the numbers stay good, then we'd be set up either next Wednesday, I think it'd be next Wednesday, to move into phase 3 in this region.
Yeah, 5 regions in the state are moving to phase 3 this Friday, but I know we're not one of them. We're going to probably be after that. All right. I noticed that Ben has rapt attention and his mic is unmuted. Ben, is there anything you want to ask?
Motion to adjourn.
No, I have a question first.
Oh, sorry. Bobby's holding this up. Yeah, Bobby.
Chicken law. I hate to bring it up, but
No, it's my bad. I have the laws in digital. I'm going to reach out and get everyone out the stuff this week. I want to set up a meeting for next week, or possibly the week after. My last day for school is sometime in the middle of next week. And then I want to go on with that because I want to have something able to present in the July meeting. So Andy has done his due diligence and given us a bunch of laws to review from local municipalities within the region. And that's sort of our starting point to where we can come up with some recommendations. So if you haven't gotten an email from me by this time next week, call me and yell at me. Or just get like a rubber chicken and throw it on my front porch as you drive by. Ben, I'm so sorry. What were you saying?
Motion to adjourn.
Emily?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Motion is adjourned, or meeting is adjourned. And as someone said on Facebook during this meeting, thank you everyone for serving our community. Have a good evening, everybody.
You too.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
And if you're still on, I will be ending the meeting. So thank you and have a good night.